The next type of positioning is called absolute. So now here on this example, we have some fixed positioning, we have relative positioning, and my lovely black goose image over here has absolute positioning. So that allows me to place something in an absolute spot, like it's definitely going outside of its natural order, right? Because it's like hanging over. It is a little bit over, sticking up over the top of this div and a little bit out to the left. All right, so taking it out of its natural order, again, using absolute positioning. So absolute positioning is a two-step process. So let's go through that. You should be working from 5A absolute start. So the first thing we need to do is to get that image in there. And because what I want is for it to hang outside or sort of hang a little bit off of and above this div here, which I called middle, I'm going to put this div inside just after I start my middle div. So looking into our body here, here's our container, here's our header, here's our middle div. And so right after the middle div starts, let's put in another div. And I'm going to give it an ID of, how about goose? And then I'm just going to put in a moment of filler text to make it a little bit easier to see it. I will delete that and then close it out. Okay, so when I click over here, I should see this div here. And now if you go into the folder images for layout, you should have black goose PNG, and you can take it and drag it into that div. Remember, if this doesn't work for whatever reason, you can always go up to insert and choose image. All right, and now in my code or in the design view, let's get rid of that little bit of text. Okay, and here's our image, and following the natural order of things, and this little div, it's stacked on top of, but what I want is to have it hang over here. So let's write a CSS rule for this div, and I'm going to put it up in here. So I have CSS for my middle, and then for the middle image. So because this is middle image and this is coming first, I think I'm going to put it in between. And so this is going to be hashtag goose, or whatever it is that you called yours. All right, and what we want to do is we're going to set its position to absolute. And then we're going to position it a little bit to the left and a little bit to the top. But before we do that, we have to set the div that we want to position it off of to position relative. So at this point, you might want to just like watch what I'm doing, go all the way through and then pause and then do it yourself, just so I can explain this. So I want it to hang off of my div middle. So I have to give this a position of relative. And what that's going to do is, because this div is inside this div, when I give it a position of absolute, and I'm going to say, for example, left negative 50px, so that way it would go negative, it would go off to the left. And I'll do the same for the top, negative 50px. It is applying these numbers to whatever its closest relative is, and its closest relative is the closest div that has position relative. Okay, so now when I click over here, we do see that it jumps up here. Let's save it and check it in the browser, and then let's experiment with tweaking a couple of things. Okay, so here it is off 45 pixels, negative 40 or negative 50 pixels off of this div, and negative 50 pixels off of this div as well to the top. So just to illustrate, if I had not set this div to relative, I'm going to delete that, save it. It went to its next closest relative, which was just simply the top of the page. So if we view this, here it is. So actually it's not even in the container. It just thinks you mean negative 45 or negative 50 to the left and to the top of the body. So it jumps up here. So let's give something else. Let's give our container position, if I spell it correctly. And now it's jumping off those numbers, thinking we want those numbers to be off of the container. So remember, our header is up here, so this is our container. Yeah, so hopefully this makes sense. You get the idea. So whatever numbers, if you want to position something absolute, absolute position allows you to give the actual pixels to the top, to the bottom, to the left of the right of where you want something to be positioned. But we always think about it as being positioned off of another div. That div has to be given position relative. So now let's go back to my container, take that out, and put this one here. All right, so now instead of what if I want to, what I'd like you to do is take a moment and instead of the numbers that I have here, try switching it over to the right. Or could you get it to position down to the bottom? Just start putting in some numbers, put bottom, and then whatever the number you think it would be to get it to our image to land down here. All right, just try tweaking a bunch of numbers and see if you can position this one little div off of our middle into different spots. Could be in the middle, could be on the other side, on the bottom, something like that. And then show me what you have.